Creating a Windows virtual machine. Basically, there are three ways of creating a virtual machine. We can create using Azure portal, which we have already seen before in the previous module, where I was talking about the virtual network, the VNet, NIC and all that. So we actually already know how to make use of Azure portal and create a virtual machine, and of course it is pretty easy. But there are many times when we want to create a Azure virtual machine using Azure PowerShell commands. We can do that. And not only that, once we have a virtual machine, we can save a virtual machine template, or we can probably create a virtual machine template. We call it as Azure Resource Manager template, and from that template also we can create a virtual machine. And not only this, we can always have a disk created, an image created from an existing virtual machine, and from an image also a virtual machine can be created. So all these things I am going to cover one by one in sequence. But the first thing, how to create a virtual machine using portal. Because we have already done this in the previous module, I am going to skip it, but otherwise yes, you just go to Azure portal, click on new compute and select the virtual machine image, and using that image provide the configuration settings and click on create, and rest all it will do it by itself. I would like to concentrate on creating a virtual machine using PowerShell commands. So I have a complete set of steps here listed already. In sequence we have to execute them. So the first step obviously is to log in to Azure portal, and then you have to change your subscription. Whatever your subscription is, you have to use that subscription. I am using Visual Studio Enterprise subscription. You might have probably the free trial subscription. You'll have to switch to that. Followed by that, we have to create a resource group in a specified location. So we are creating a resource group in East US. Now what all is needed for creation of a virtual machine? First, for creating a virtual machine, we need a storage account, so that in this storage account we can have a VHD image saved. Now when we are selecting the VHD image, we can use an existing Azure pre-built gallery image, or we can also create a custom image that was uploaded to the storage account in Azure. Either of this can be used, either a pre-existing gallery image or a custom image that was uploaded also can be used. But what is important is, in either case we will need a storage account. Now very important thing about storage account, the location of the storage account compulsory must be the same as the location of the virtual machine. We cannot have storage account and virtual machine in different locations. So whatever variable we have used earlier for location, that same variable we can make use of for creation of a storage account here. So we are creating a storage account by name VM storage account demo with standard LRS, and here we see resource group name, the type and the location. Now here I am using standard LRS, but we can as well use premium LRS. Premium LRS is considered to be ideal when we want a faster virtual machine. We also get certain extra features on premium type of storage account when compared to standard, and those we have already discussed in storage accounts chapter. But here I am using standard LRS instead of premium LRS, and good enough for demo. Then the immediate next thing after creation of a storage account, though not connected, is we need to create a subnet. Ideally we need to create a virtual network, and within the virtual network we need to create a subnet, and we need to create network interface card with a public IP. So these four resources now: subnet, using subnet VNet, and then NIC using IP. So that is what is here. I am giving the name of my virtual my network interface card as WebVM1 NIC. WebVM1 because I am going to name the virtual machine as WebVM1. The IP address is WebVM1 IP. The network I am going to create is demo network, demo virtual network. The subnet, front end subnet. Like that, here I am demonstrating only with one subnet, but if needed we can always have two subnets created for a virtual network. So here the first command is to create a subnet, Azure Virtual Network Subnet Config. So once we create a subnet config, here when we create a virtual network, that is where a subnet will get created. The same variable what we have here, we are using it here. So along with the virtual network, with this name, in this resource group, in this location, having so and so range of IP addresses, this is CIDR address block. With this subnet, we are creating a virtual network. Now once we have the virtual network, from that virtual network we are getting the subnet. Actually not required, this is optional command, this is absolutely not required, but just for demonstration how from an existing subnet we can how from an existing VNet we can get a subnet. That is what is this command. Next we have got the command for creation of a public IP address. So and so is the public IP address name in this resource group, in this location. Now we want dynamic IP address. This means it can be either static or dynamic, and for a public IP address we may want to give a DNS name, domain name, and here I am giving it as DSS-webvm1. So a public IP address is created, but this public IP address has to be ultimately attached to the NIC. So we have to create a NIC that is attached to a subnet with public IP and private IP. All three, subnet, public IP, private IP, will club into a single network interface card, NIC. So the name of NIC, resource group, location. Here we need to give subnet ID. So either I can write $subnet.id or $VNet has a collection called as subnets. In our case we have only one, .id. Both are okay. Either put $subnet.id or this particular command will get us the ID of the subnet. Public IP address, the ID of the public IP address, what we have created here, the public IP, its ID, and we are specifically giving the private IP address. 192.168.1.4. Remember here 1, 2, 3 cannot be used because those are reserved IP addresses. That's why 1, 2, 3 excluded and directly I have used 4. And this 192.168.1 is supposed to be, because here it is 192.168.1.0. If this is 0, this is supposed to be 0. That is important. Now it is time for creating a virtual machine. But even before we create a virtual machine, first we have to create a virtual machine configuration. So virtual machine configuration would need a name of the virtual machine. This is going to decide the size of the virtual machine, and this is the command which is going to create a virtual machine configuration. Now once we have the virtual machine configuration, for this we need to associate the operating system, we need to associate the type of VHD. Here it is. Now that the virtual machine configuration object is created, the configuration information can be assigned to it. This includes the operating system, the base gallery image. Gallery image is what we want, Windows machine. So the gallery image has to be attached, and the previously created network adapter that you want to assign it to the virtual machine, because it is because of the network adapter only the virtual machine will become part of that subnet. Optionally, you can also specify the name of the operating system VHD. If you do not specify, Azure will automatically give a name to the operating system. Basically computer name we can call it. In order to define the gallery image, the publisher, the offer, and the SKU for the image gallery image is needed. You can refer to the following article to understand how to determine the available values to use. Basically here you see this is a predefined value. Microsoft Windows Server, it's a predefined value. So how do we get what is the value for this, for this, for this, and for this? We can get it from this particular link. So yes, we have to initialize these variables as it is. Publisher name, offer name, SKU name, and disk name, of course you can give whatever you like. So I am calling it as web VM OS disk. It's the operating system disk which we are creating for the virtual machine. Get credentials. This is going to get us the encrypted value of the credentials. This PowerShell command will open a dialog with this particular message. Type the name and password of the local administrator account. That's where I need to provide the username and password with which the account will be created and used for logging on to the virtual machine remote desktop. Set Azure RM assign the operating system to the virtual machine. So here we got the VM config on top. That VM config, we are saying we want Windows operating system. The computer name also we are giving here. Virtual machine name and computer name I am calling it as same, not necessary though. You can have a different computer name and different virtual machine name in the portal. We are associating the admin credentials, provision VM agent and enable auto update. Automatic update also we are providing it here. And then we have set Azure VM source image. So here we are associating the gallery image to the virtual machine configuration. The gallery image is publisher name, the offer SKU name, all these are attached, and of course the latest version. And then we are saying Azure VM network interface. This is to assign the NIC to the VM configuration. This is the NIC which we are associating with the VM configuration. So VM configuration now has the operating system, the image from the gallery and the NIC, three important commands. Now we need to create a disk which is going to be stored in the storage account. So we are taking whatever is the storage account blob name. In storage account we have created a blob. Under that VHDS will be the container, and in that we are going to create a blob by this name, disk name .vhd. So that will be actually the path of the VHD disk URI of the disk operating system disk. Assign the operating system disk name and location to the VM configuration. So VM configuration, so and so disk name, so and so URI, and we want to create from image. So the disk which is created, from that image we want to create a VM. So now that we have got the operating system VM configuration defined, we have got all the other related resources defined through VM config. Now we can create a virtual machine using the main command, that is new rmvm, resource manager virtual machine. Give the resource manager name, location and the config. This is going to end up creating a virtual machine successfully. Now let me demonstrate this by creating a virtual machine using PowerShell. So yeah, this is the PowerShell window where I would like to execute all this script. So I'll create one at a time, going from top. First let me log in and set the context. Login will invoke the dialog where I have to provide the username. Subscription does not exist, spelling mistake. We are actually already having this as the active subscription. It should be subscription name. So small correction here, it's not ID, name. And then create a resource group. Just copy, paste, the resource group will get created. Followed by that, we need to create a storage account, for which I'll copy this command. It is going to take a while for the storage account to be created. In the meantime, all these commands are for creation of a subnet, VNet, IP, NIC. All this we want to create now. So I'll copy this and I'm supposed to paste here once the storage account creation is completed. Done. So let's now execute the rest of the commands. The output type of this commandlet will be modified in future release. You have to be little careful. These methods, wherever you are using new, these output types, that means the return type might change is what they are saying. So tomorrow if this script is not working, you'll have to take the new documentation and check what is it returning. Accordingly, the script code has to be changed from whatever I am providing here. After this, we need to now create the config. All this has to be completed, after which I am going to create a config. Now done. Now paste the config commands. Done. So now go back. Here we need all this credentials. First let us take the credentials. It will show a dialog box where I am supposed to provide the username password, which I am going to use for logging onto the remote desktop account. Credentials provided. Now assigning the operating system config, image gallery, NIC to the VM configuration. All done. Pretty fast this is. And now the operating system disk has to be created. The operating system disk has to be created. The virtual machine has to be created finally. Let's do this first. Cannot validate the argument VM. Somewhere something went wrong. VM config. This also is supposed to be VM config. Copy, paste once again. Done. And last, the main command under this resource group in this location with this VM configuration, create a new Azure Resource Manager virtual machine. Of course, this is going to take time, but by the time it gets created in background, let me take you to the portal, and here we have the resource PowerShell demo resource group, and under this you will see we have web VM1 NIC network interface card, web VM1 IP. You can actually go to the IP and see that it has a domain name also associated with it, and some public IP is given associated with so and so NIC, so and so virtual machine. Network interface card with this IP, virtual network. This has only one subnet. Overview. One network interface card, one device connected. Right now only one. And we have got the virtual, the storage account. This got created by mistake, but this is the storage account I am using actually. VM storage account demo 1. VM storage account demo 1. So now let us see what is the status of the virtual machine. Click on it. It will take me to the overview, and here it will clearly say that it is starting, rather creating right now. It's not even created yet. After creating, it is going to start, and then it will be ready for further usage. So I will wait for this command to get completed, and it's completed. Yeah, it took decently long time when I paused the video for completion of this particular action of creating the virtual machine. Let's go to the browser and verify if successfully created. You see, now it is also ready. Now you can actually connect to this virtual machine. So while creating the virtual machine, we gave the username and password. Same thing I'll give here. And the password. Click on yes, and we'll be able to log on. Remote desktop login to this particular virtual machine. So this is how all the steps have to be performed for creation of a virtual machine through PowerShell commands. Yes, all these are fixed. The only thing which will need to change is the names here. Otherwise, you can use all these commands in sequence and execute any kind of virtual machine. You can actually save this as a PS file, PowerShell script file. Give the file as input for creation of a virtual machine at any point of time. Yeah, many times what will happen is here, after creating a virtual machine, this connect will be disabled. The only reason it will be disabled is maybe you have created network interface card without public IP. When you do not create a network interface card with public IP, obviously at that point of time, we will not be able to connect. Remote desktop will not be allowed. So that point you have to keep in mind. So I repeat once again very quickly the procedure for creation of a virtual machine. First, we log on to the Azure account, create a resource group, create a storage account, create a subnet. Using the subnet config, create a VNet and a subnet together. Then we create an IP, public IP. Using the public IP, we create NIC. Then we specify the configuration, VM configuration, associate a image with the VM configuration, the type of operating system we want, the name of the machine, and so on. And eventually we need to create a virtual machine with this command. That's it in this. Thank you.